We're back here on HQ Spotlight on CBS Sports Network. It is Monday, so you know what that means. Another edition of Mock Draft Monday, all the way up until the 2026 NFL Draft. And this week, it's Tom Fornelli's very first mock draft. So let's go ahead and bring in the man to go through all 32 picks of this mock draft. I'm Jordan Giorgio. Danny Kanell is also here to help us work through some of these picks. Tom, we're going to get right into it. Tell us why our Heisman Trophy winner and national champ Fernando Mendoza will be a great fit in Vegas at number 1.
I mean, I think that if you look at the situation, Vegas obviously needs a quarterback. And when you look at this draft in particular, it is not a very deep class at the quarterback position. Fernando Mendoza is the clear number 1 in this class. And frankly, until there's a reason not to put him at number 1 because the Raiders come out and say we're not going to take him, he's going to be at number 1 in every single mock draft you see from now until the draft starts. And I do think it makes sense as far as fit, because this comp I'm making, do not take it out of context. But Tom Brady is an owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Fernando Mendoza reminds me a bit of Tom Brady in his play style, in that they don't have rocket arms, but they are very smart before the snap and after the snap. They are very accurate with their passes. And while they're not overly mobile, they can move around in the pocket to help extend plays. And they're not too scared to stand in there and take hits. And they're also leaders of their team. So I think Tom Brady will fall in love with Fernando Mendoza as this process goes on. And it is hard to imagine anybody else but Mendoza being the pick at number 1 right now.
It certainly is. Let's get to the second pick in this NFL mock draft. The New York Jets, Tom, has taken what many people believe to be the top player at his position in linebacker Arvell Reese.
Yeah, he's an absolute stud, Jordan. I remember I was in Indianapolis at the Big Ten championship game and was walking around. Now, mind you, I picked Indiana to win the game, and when I saw a few of these players, we're going to talk about all of them, but when I saw Arvell Reese, I was like, uh-oh, like Indiana's going to be in big trouble. And sure enough, Fernando Mendoza was able to win that game, but the physical specimen that Arvell Reese is those are traits you cannot teach. And he's only 20 years old, 6'4", 245 pounds. I thought he really flourished. And several of these players playing in Matt Patricia's system, coming from an NFL, coaching mindset with a lot of schemes on their plate, makes them, to me, closer to being NFL ready than a lot of players in these drafts. He's a very versatile player. He's long. He's athletic. He can absolutely wreak havoc out there. I think Arvell Reese, probably one of the bigger upside plays in this draft. If you need a quarterback, you have to go Mendoza, but you're looking for somebody to wreak havoc on the defensive side of the ball with tremendous upside and should be a future Pro Bowler. Arvell Reese absolutely fits that bill.
Makes sense to me. On to pick number 3. We have the Arizona Cardinals on the clock here. Tom, you have them selecting an offensive tackle, Spencer Fano. Why is he the first, though, at his position off the board, and really a position group that has a ton of depth this year?
Yeah, I think you hit on it right there. This is a spot in the draft that has a lot of depth, even if it doesn't have what you might consider that prototypical number 1 franchise, no doubt, left tackle. But I do think Fano has a very good shot of being a very productive player and a very sturdy player for the Arizona Cardinals at the left tackle position in the NFL. And this is a team that, frankly, does need to upgrade its offensive line. It is not a very good unit, at least not from what I saw last year. And I think that is a need that they will be looking to address early in this draft. And I think Fano, you put him against Francis Mauigoa. I don't have a huge gap between them, but I just simply have Fano slightly graded higher than Mauigoa on my board, so I've got him going to the Cardinals. But it could be Francis here. It could be another left tackle. All I know is that by the time the draft comes, I'll be shocked if the Cardinals aren't taking a tackle at this spot.
All right, selecting 4th overall, we have the Titans on the clock. Danny, for those who have maybe not watched Miami's Rueben Bain Jr. since his freshman year just be an absolute game wrecker, what are the Titans getting in this guy?
An absolute game wrecker, Jordan. He is fantastic. Now, I thought it was interesting because throughout the season, the mock drafts, NFL draft guys come looking around and they start studying tape and they look at stupid things like arm length and is his arms long enough? And they're like, I don't know if he can get it done. All I know is this dude plays with an absolute chip on his shoulder. He plays angry, like literally, like he is angry out there on the field, and I love it because he absolutely has a motor that is running at all times. And when I saw him in person, Again, not the tallest, longest, lengthiest player, but his legs are like tree trunks. And then the thing that also jumps out to me is his bend, his ability to come off that edge and almost be like perpendicular with the ground when he's coming around that edge is absolutely spectacular. But high motor player, I think he's a guy that can absolutely have a huge impact in the NFL. I wouldn't hesitate at all. Just throw in the tape. If you're worried about the measurables, look at the production, and it backs it up.
All right. We've got back-to-back Hurricanes, though, off the board, it looks like. Tom, who is going to be the newest New York Giant?
Yeah, I've got them taking the other offensive tackle I discussed a minute ago, Francis Mauigoa from Miami. If you look at the Giants, they got Jackson Dart last year. They clearly have a lot of belief in him. Cam Scatabo was a revelation for them at the running back spot, but what they need to do is they need to worry about protecting Jackson Dart. And yes, Jackson Dart probably needs to take some of that responsibility onto his own shoulders and not take as many hits. But as far as dropping back to pass, I think Mauigoa is exactly what the Giants need. I think he could be an excellent left tackle at the NFL position. I think he's a very tough, physical player. That is the entire ethos of what Miami's offensive and defensive lines were last year. It's a big reason why they got to the national title game. And I think that he is a fit for the kind of culture. If you follow what Jay Harbaugh did at Baltimore and what he's going to try to bring to New York with the Giants, this is a guy that screams like an excellent fit for me. It makes a lot of sense for me to think that the Giants will end up going this route if he's still on the board.
All right, let's go ahead and continue to work through our top 10 picks here. At number 6, Danny, what are the Browns getting in receiver Makai Lemon out of USC? And is he the best receiver in this class, in your opinion?
I think it's pretty close between him and Carnell Tate, but I get why Tom has him going off the board here. Okay. He is outstanding. I remember, again, another little walk down memory lane. We're talking to Miller Moss when he was the quarterback at USC, and we said, which young receiver are you expecting to step up? And he goes, Makai Lemon. Did not hesitate. And really, since he's taken the field for the Trojans, he's been somebody that jumps off at you. Slot receiver who has outstanding hands. You very rarely see him drop the football, and that's exactly what you want. I mean, it's the most important job description for a receiver is to be able to catch the football. He's got great hands, very smooth route runner, and he's also not afraid to come in, get mixed in the run game as well, which you need from a slot receiver coming down to get on some of those linebackers in the middle of the field. So I think he's it's a debate about who is the top one there, but I would have no problem at all if Makai Lemon is the top receiver off the board.
All right, at number 7, Tom, the Washington Commanders are on deck. How much better does this Washington pass rush get with a Red Raider like David Bailey?
Oh, I think he would be a huge upgrade to it because this is a team last year. I mean, obviously, one of their biggest priorities is keeping Jaden Daniels healthy. But the other priority is they need to improve that defense because it stunk last year, and the pass rush is a huge part of that. And if you look at David Bailey, there is the one aspect of his game that you know he will excel at from day one on an NFL field, and that will be getting after the quarterback. He has a lightning-quick first step that you just saw plenty of college tackles were simply overwhelmed by. They did not have a chance to get into their set and get in front of him and keep him from getting into the backfield. His work in the run game will probably be a work in progress at the NFL level. I don't know if he's ever going to truly be elite in that aspect, but we know that at the NFL level, defensively, you have to get after the quarterback if you're going to get stops, and I think Bailey would be a huge improvement for the Commanders in that area. He's the second best edge rusher in this class, so if he is still on the board when the Commanders are up, they will be running to the dais to hand in their pick.
Sounds like that would be quite the steal there. Let's get to pick 8 now. One of the most fun players to watch really throughout his entire collegiate career, Notre Dame's running back Jeremiyah Love. You know, last year, gentlemen, there was a lot of conversation and a talk regarding the expectations for Ashton Jeanty getting to the big leagues, right? But how quickly can you see Love having an impact at the next level?
Immediately.
Okay.
I mean, really at that position, you can get the ball in a running back's hands and just kind of, you can tell him where to go, and all you have to do is make guys miss. And he is outstanding at making guys miss. Just go throw in the tape against Pitt in this game right here when he had one of the best spin moves we've seen in college football, maybe over the last decade. But he's been productive at Notre Dame for the last 2 seasons, 2,500 yards, 35 touchdowns. I loved about him last year down the stretch was playing banged up, didn't take off as Notre Dame was chasing that national championship game versus Ohio State. And he's a game breaker. He's somebody who has the speed to run away from defenses. So I think the Saints here get younger at running back. Alvin Kamara is 30 years old, so they got to eventually move on from him, who's been the face of that organization rotation at running back, and I think Jeremiyah Love makes the most sense for them to do it.
All right, sounds good to me. Gentlemen, we have to take a quick break. Hang tight there because we are going to show you a look at our first 8 picks of our mock draft, according to Tom Fornelli. So don't take the comp out of context. And Tom Brady, as you heard Tom Fornelli earlier, he did not guarantee, did he? I don't know. We have to replay that. Fernando Mendoza there going number 1 to the Raiders. Quick break for us. When we return, we continue to break down Tom Fornelli's mock draft. What are these 2 Ohio State Buckeyes going to land? We tell you next. Welcome back to HQ Spotlight. Working through Tom Fornelli's NFL mock draft as it is Mock Draft Monday. We've already had 1 Ohio State Buckeye off the board, but there's a few big names who are hoping to have their name called early. And according to your mock, Tom, receiver Carnell Tate is the next name called. Headed to the Chiefs, how ecstatic are you if you're Patrick Mahomes?
I think Patrick Mahomes will be very happy with Carnell Tate because this is a team, honestly, if you look at the Chiefs these last few years, they've had a lot of difficulty trying to find that number 1 stud receiver. Rashee Rice has had his ups and downs in that team since Tyreek Hill left. And Travis Kelce not getting any younger. We don't know how much longer he has to play or how much he has left in the tank. So in comes Carnell Tate, who is not the big name of the Ohio State receivers. Jeremiah Smith gets all the attention, but Tate certainly would not be the first Ohio State receiver who has been overshadowed in his college career to go on to play well in the NFL. I think of Chris Olave, I think of Emeka Egbuka, and I think Tate reminds me of those 2 in that he's just so smooth in everything he does. He is not going to run a 4.2 40. He is not going to, just blow your mind with his measurables, but he just has a way to get open. He runs excellent routes, and he's also got very good hands. He's not incredible after the catch, but still, he's a guy who's going to be able to move the chains. He's going to be a weapon for you in the red zone. He's going to help you get the first downs, keep drives going. I think he's going to be an excellent fit in that Chiefs offense and give Patrick Mahomes, a kind of a utility guy outside instead of on the middle.
And knows what it takes to win a championship. It just seems like it's the year of the Buckeye because at 10, we have back-to-back Buckeyes going to the league as Caleb Downs is headed to Cincinnati. Is Downs, though, the most versatile safety in the draft, you think?
Yeah, without question. Teams have been waiting for him to hit the NFL draft since he showed up as a freshman in Tuscaloosa with Nick Saban. And we saw Nick Saban, the job he did with him. He's freshman of the year, one of the best players that year, and he's only gotten better since he's been at Ohio State. He is, when you watch their tape, to me, that jumps off to you is just the football IQ, the awareness. He's able to do a lot of different things. Again, mentioned Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator. Jordyn, I saw him one time hide behind an official so the quarterback couldn't see him. Like he was, I've never seen that before, but he was like coy and hiding behind the official. So and then all of a sudden he makes a big play. Not surprising at all. His dad was a teammate of mine, Gary Downs, with the New York Giants. His brother's already in the NFL as a receiver. He's got NFL in his blood. So, he knows what it's going to be, what it's going to take to be a pro. I think if all the guys out here, it looks like the surest thing. You can trust what you're going to get out of Caleb Downs. He is spectacular.
I had a chance to meet and speak with him at the Law Impact Trophy Awards. He won that award, and his father as well. I had a chance to meet the family. Just a class act on and off the field. I absolutely love Caleb Downs in this pick, Tom Fornelli. Next on the clock here with the 11th pick, the Miami Dolphins, a team that obviously has a lot of needs to fill this offseason. So which way are you leaning here?
Yeah, I've got them going after LSU cornerback Mansoor Delane here. Delane is a player that I love. When I look at corners, obviously the ability to cover receivers is a pretty important part of their job, and Delane is very good at it. He's also very instinctual. He's aggressive. He takes chances. He's able to dissect a play, give himself an early step, and force turnovers, which are huge, particularly at the NFL level where games are always so close and turnovers often decide the outcome. But the other thing I truly love about him, and that I love about any cornerback, he's not afraid to get involved in the run game. He is not afraid to put his body on the line, either to take on a blocker or to take down the running back and get the tackle. That is the kind of attitude I want to see from every corner, particularly one that I'm trying to take early in the first round of the draft. So he's the number 1 corner on my board. He is not the only need that the Miami Dolphins have, but he does help with one of their primary needs. I think this makes a whole heck of a lot of sense.
Check that off the list. At pick 12, we have our 4th Buckeye off the board. Sonny Styles, by the way, epic name to become the next ex-Dallas Cowboy. He's another versatile guy, but he hasn't really received a ton of praise like his teammates. Why should Cowboys fans be jazzed here?
Because the dude is an absolute baller. He started his career as a safety. You mentioned the versatility.
Yes.
He started his career as a safety. He's long, he's lanky, then he bulked up a little bit. They moved him down to linebacker level. I think the sky is the limit for Sonny Styles, because I still think he can add another maybe 10 pounds to his frame without losing some of that quickness that you see out there from him. But again, another one of these players on the Ohio State Buckeyes who is absolutely insane. He's a great finisher at the point of attack. He likes to punish the ball carriers, whether it's a ball carrier or a quarterback out there that's taking the football. I think he's got great football instincts because he's played at different levels. I think he's going to come in and make instant impacts on the Cowboys defense, which could definitely use a playmaker like Sonny Styles.
At 13, the Rams are on the clock here. And, Tom, you actually have them taking a chance on a guy who did have a pretty big injury in 2025. That's Tennessee corner Jermod McCoy. What gives you the confidence he'll go this early and that ACL injury isn't a turnoff for teams?
Yeah, he did miss the entire season because of the ACL, but if you go back to 2024 and you watch the tape of him playing for the Volunteers, he was a phenomenal player on that defense, and I think his absence last year is a major reason why the Tennessee defense didn't fall off a cliff, but it did not perform at nearly the same level that it had the year before, and it's why Tennessee lost more games. But this is just a player who's very fluid, very athletic, agile, aggressive. He's intuitive. He has good instincts. He's sticky in coverage. He's not a great tackler, but it's not for a lack of effort of trying in the run game, which, as I mentioned earlier, is something I really care about. But his stock will depend largely on his physicals and his physical condition, depending on how he does, as long as teams aren't afraid of what they see with the medicals. But if he's healthy and he shows an ability in workouts during this pre-draft process, I think he's going to be the second or third corner taken off the board because he is just that talented.
All right, let's go ahead and end here before we take a break with the Ravens on deck at pick 14. They get a big man, literally. I had to just check the stats here. 6'5", 330 out of Florida, Caleb Banks. How high is this guy's ceiling?
Tremendously high. You see the foot injury there. Did sideline him for a significant portion of the season for the Gators. But of all these guys, remember earlier I was like, some of these guys are Rueben Bain. They were worried about his length. You do not have to worry about that with Caleb Banks. 6'6", 335 pounds. He's got really long arms that really can provide some issues for some offensive linemen trying to get up on him. He is a freakishly gifted athlete with the quickness that you see him moving at that frame. It is absolutely off the charts. I think the Ravens resetting that defense a little bit, he would be a huge part to really clog the interior of that defensive line. Dude can absolutely get after it.
All right, we have to hit a quick break, but before we do, here's a recap of picks 9 through 14. If you're Patrick Mahomes, you should be ecstatic to get this guy, receiver out of Ohio State, Carnell Tate, headed to Kansas City, according to our own Tom Fornelli, and then back-to-back Buckeyes, Caleb Downs, a playmaker just on and off the field, heading to Cincinnati. And then Sonny Styles, great name, headed to the Dallas Cowboys, a guy who knows what it takes to win a championship. Quick break for us here on HQ Spotlight. When we return, the Panthers hit the jackpot last year with Tedero McMillan. Why make sense for them to take another top receiver this year? Tom Fornelli tells us next. It's Mock Draft Monday here on HQ Spotlight. I'm Jordan Giorgio, Danny Kanell, and Tom Fornelli here with us as we work through Tom's latest NFL mock draft. We pick it up with pick 15. The Buccaneers are on the clock here, Tom, and I see a name that many believe actually won't drop this far, but would be a steal for Tampa Bay if they get Oregon tight end Kenyon Sadiq.
Yeah, I kind of couched a comparison earlier with Fernando Mendoza. I'm not going to couch this one at all. Kenyon Sadiq is George Kittle. If you look at the way that he plays, if you look at his build, they are very similar. He is an excellent blocker in the run game. You have to be to play tight end for Oregon, but it's just in the passing game. He brings a dynamic. He's an excellent receiver, a good route runner, and when he gets the ball in his hands, he's not easy to break down. He can outrun you to the corner, and then if he's got a cornerback or a defensive back trying to go low and take his legs out, he will run him right over. So this is a player I think that is a very dynamic weapon to have. We are seeing tight ends be utilized more in NFL passing offenses, and if you look at what Tampa Bay has done over the years, they've had very good receivers. They have not really had that difference-making tight end. I think this is somebody you put in this offense, suddenly you unlock a part of Baker Mayfield's game that you just haven't had. He'll take this Bucs offense to the next level. So I think if he falls to Tampa Bay here, it'd be foolish for them not to take him.
All right, let's get to pick 16. The Vikings are on deck via a mock trade with the Jets, according to Tom. So this is a team that has a few needs, but one big one includes interior offensive line. So, Denny, who really stands out as a first-round worthy talent?
Oh, they're going to take a guard out of Penn State when you look at Ioane, who has been spectacular for them. I'm not even going to go with the first name there, Tom. I'm just going to go with the last one. When you watch the film, number 71 really jumps out to you. And Kevin O'Connell knows, J.J. McCarthy, if he indeed is the starting quarterback for the Vikings next year, he knows the importance of getting the run game going. And Ioane is one of those run blockers up front that can actually move multiple guys off the ball. And he's been fantastic in pass protection. In 32 starts, just 2 sacks allowed. And those were back in 2023 when it was his first year starting. For 2 seasons, has not allowed a sack up front. He is absolutely a great anchor for the Vikings offensive line. Would be able to come in and contribute day one as a day one starter. I think he'd be a phenomenal selection.
Tom, do you know how to pronounce his first name correctly? I feel like you do.
Olaivavega.
I just go Ola.
Shit, I love. Oh, yeah, I like
that's
that.
what his boy
Ola works. Good. I think most people call him Ola. Yeah.
Hey, well, we better get used to it because he's going to be playing in the big leagues this upcoming season. All right, Tom, pick 17. Excuse me. We have the Detroit Lions. This defense, obviously led by Aiden Hutchinson. This is a team who could use some help when it comes to Aiden Hutchinson taking the load off his shoulders. Is that what direction you have them headed?
Yeah, I think if you look at Detroit's defense these last few years, clearly Aiden Hutchinson is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. And we have seen Detroit put some guys on the other side, and they've had success simply because Hutchinson attracts so much attention from opposing offenses. So now I've got them drafting Cassius Howell, who is a lot more than just a guy. He is a very highly productive pass rusher from Texas A&M. He's also a very versatile player. You saw the Aggies line him up outside the tackle. You saw him move him, kick him inside sometimes. He's able to bring a pass rush from different spots. If you put him on this defense and you combine him with Hutchinson and you leave Howell in a lot of one-on-one battles, he is going to have a lot of success. Suddenly this Detroit pass rush becomes a lot better, and the Detroit defense as a whole becomes a lot better, because you've seen the Lions these last few years. Offense for them has not really been a problem. Defensively, they've had injuries, they've had issues stopping teams. I think putting Howell on that front of that defensive line alongside Hutchinson as a bookend solves quite a few problems for them.
Hutchinson can breathe a little bit easier if that comes to fruition. We'll wait and see. All right, Danny, so at pick 18, we have the Jets, obviously, via that trade with the Vikings, as we just mentioned. Tom already has the Jets picking up with the second pick, linebacker Arnell Reese, who we talked about. And here, he actually likes receiver Jordyn Tyson. I'm just wondering who's going to be throwing to this guy who we saw at Arizona State. He was able to catch everything.
That is a great question. I don't know. And I know if you're a receiver, you're probably not too fired up about going to play for the Jets, but at least you have Garrett Wilson on the other side, which is somebody that at least gives you probably some better matchups. Jordyn Tyson, at one time, a lot of mocks had him as the best wide receiver and the top wide receiver coming off the board. And I get it. And Tom might be right. He might drop to this point, but I still think he is somebody who provides a ton of value at this point of the draft. He's 6'2", he's bigger. I love that he learned from Hines Ward, who's been the wide receiver coach at Arizona State for the last couple of seasons, which probably explains his versatility. He's able to play the X, he's able to play the Z, he's able to move into the slot. He's an outstanding route runner. And at his height, one of the things that jumps out to me is outstanding in 50-50 balls. So if the Jets have horrible quarterback play, which they probably will once again, you just say throw it up there for grabs and let Jordyn Tyson go get it, because he is outstanding in those jump ball situations. But I really like this young wide receiver. I think whoever's playing quarterback for the Jets is going to love throwing the ball to him.
Be a happy camper, that's for sure. All right, Tom, back-to-back receivers you have off the board here. The Panthers hold pick 19. What's going on here? Are they not satisfied with Tetairoa McMillan?
Oh, I think they're thrilled with Tetairoa McMillan, who's been an outstanding X receiver for them on the outside. But I think you go after KC Concepcion here, who can play on the outside, but he will probably flourish at the NFL level as more of a slot to give him that kind of underneath option. I think he's an excellent complement for McMillan in that passing game. This is a guy who is very quick. He's very shifty. He is hard to cover. He can change direction without losing speed. And because of that, when he does get the ball in his hands, he's electric after the catch. He could pick up more yards. He's not just a guy who's going to get you 7 yards and go down. He is looking to get chunk play after chunk play. So you combine him with McMillan, he becomes a very difficult matchup for opposing defenses who are probably going to be shading McMillan over the top. That's going to leave a lot of room underneath for Concepcion to eat. I think this would make the Panthers offense with, Dave Canales has taken step forwards. We've seen Bryce Young take step forwards. I think this gets them to that next level, makes them a real threat, not just in the NFC South, but maybe to actually win a playoff game next year.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I could see that possibly happening. Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
All right, let's end here with pick 20, which is owned by the Dallas Cowboys. They have 2 first-round picks this upcoming NFL draft. They picked, of course, we talked about Sonny Styles with the first. Tom has them actually addressing pass rush with their second. Tell us about this guy out of Auburn.
First, I think this makes total sense with the Cowboys attacking the defensive side of the ball, right? That's been a major problem for them, and now they get 2 guys that can influence, the opposing offenses right off the get-go. Keldrick Falk is one of the longer guys. Now, this is somebody at 6'6", 285. He is exactly what you look for. Can play a little bit tall at times, which I think if you get him a little bit lower center, get him a little bit playing closer to the ground, I think that'll help him somewhat. But he's only 20 years old. Another one of the second guy in this draft that's only 20 years old, so you have a ton of upside. You see a very raw potential. And the thing that I love about is they rave about his character and his, a locker room guy who's going to give you everything he's got every time, that's got a football IQ that's off the charts, that I think you can mold into somebody that could be a perennial Pro Bowler down the road. So a ton of upside in Keldrick Falk, but I also think early on he could be somebody who makes an impact right away.
All right, looking forward to hopefully seeing that out in Cowboys world. Let's go ahead and show you a recap of picks 15 through 20 there. Tom is not fumbling this comp. Kenyon Sadiq is George Kittle. He is saying out of Oregon, headed to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Lions get some much-needed help, a little weight off of Aiden Hutchinson's shoulders, taking the edge out of Texas A&M. And then double receiver threat in Carolina, as you see with pick 19. And then the young guy out of Auburn providing some much-needed pass rush help in Dallas. Quick break for us. When we return, we are nearing the end of the first round, and there are still some big names waiting to hear their name called, including that guy, Bama quarterback Ty Simpson. Steeler fans, you better stick around. We're back here on HQ Spotlight and CBS Sports Network. We are nearing the end of our NFL mock draft by our own Tom Fornelli, and we are starting with pick 21 on deck, Tom. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers taking a quarterback. Tell us why this Bama boy makes sense here.
If you look at Pittsburgh's situation, clearly they need a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be back. Never was he a long-term answer for them there anyway. And by firing Mike Tomlin and bringing in Mike McCarthy, it might be kind of a shocking hire for a lot of people. But if you look at Mike McCarthy, the one thing he has done consistently is improve quarterbacks wherever he has been. So with the Steelers needing a quarterback, Ty Simpson being on the board, who had a very good start to the season last year before picking up an injury and not playing nearly as well in the second half, I think this is a spot where the Steelers maybe take a shot on Simpson. And you know what? It's the 21st pick in the first round, so if it doesn't work out, you're not married to him. You can move on, but if it does work out, you solve the biggest problem that any NFL team could have. You have a quarterback.
If Ty Simpson does get drafted at 21, this is such a great situation for him to go with Mike McCarthy. It was a great quarterback mind to go with Aaron Rodgers, who is, played forever and would be a great sounding board for Ty Simpson. I just don't think he's going to get taken this high. I think somebody's going to wait and maybe get him in the second round because they always look for upside. I just don't know if Ty Simpson has that upside ceiling that you're looking for. I think there's a floor that's there. You know exactly what you're getting for. And is a team willing to give up the 21st pick overall in the draft to get somebody who doesn't exactly excite you with the arm talent, with the body type, with the running ability? That will surprise me. Now, I've had multiple bets around here. Tom Gideon Mike Renner wanted some. I think he falls to the second, but we'll have to see if he does. And if he does go to the Steelers, it's a great situation for Ty Simpson, and maybe he makes the most of it, but I'll be surprised if he goes in the first.
All right, Tom, we'll see if you prove Danny wrong here. Let's get to 22 here. The LA Chargers on the clock, taking defensive lineman Peter Woods. What traits, Danny, does he have that should get the Chargers organization excited?
Oh, the physicality. I mean, he is somebody who really jumps off when he's able to take on offensive linemen, and he's somebody who's been, pegged for a couple years now to be a first-round draft pick. And this past season was a little disappointing for Peter Woods, as it was for the entire Clemson program. But if you go back and put the 2024 tape on, then you saw where he was absolutely wreaking havoc on that side of the ball. So I think this is exactly the style of player that Jim Harbaugh would love to have out there in Los Angeles. Somebody who plays physical at the point of attack, who can really clog up a lot of things along that offensive line. And I think he'd be an outstanding player who can come in right away and make a pretty big impact for you.
All right, Tom, next up, pick 23. You have actually his teammate headed to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, it's cornerback Avieon Terrell, and if that name sounds familiar, he is the younger brother of former Falcons first-round pick A.J. Terrell, another Clemson cornerback. And we have seen Clemson over the years, through Dabo's entire tenure, produce a lot of very good corners. I think Avieon has a chance to be the next one. The only knock on him is he's 5'11". I maintain that if he were 6'1", he would probably be the first corner off of the board here because he plays like he's bigger than he is. It's just I do wonder if teams will look at him and feel like maybe he's reduced to being a slot corner instead of being able to be used on the outside. But I love his fluidity, I love his agility, his ability to mirror patterns and just cover guys, and his playmaking skills. He has good hands, but he gets his chance to get to the ball. He's not dropping it like you see a lot of corners doing. So this is a guy I think at the end of the first round this late for the Eagles who could use a little infusion of talent in the secondary. This is an excellent value pick for that franchise. I think he makes a whole heck of a lot of sense here.
The Browns are next up because of that Travis Hunter trade. They are sitting here at 24, and they are selecting Kadyn Proctor, a guy who we talked a lot about this college football season.
And throughout his entire college football career, since he showed up in there in Alabama, he went to Iowa, but then he didn't. He came back. And I think the expectations for Kadyn Proctor were a little bit off the charts. And I would say at Alabama, maybe underwhelmed based off unrealistic expectations. Just thought he was going to come be an all-world, but he still was an outstanding, productive player. And of all these offensive linemen, if you want to win the Get Off the Bus award, like when you want him leading the pack at 6'7", 366 pounds, you talk about a massive, massive frame. With that massive frame, though, I do see him get a little bit where he struggles a little bit in space sometimes against the quicker edge rushers, and I think he needs to improve on that. But from a baseline level of just specimen, body type, what you're looking for in your prototypical NFL offensive lineman, Kadyn Proctor fits that to a T. So somebody's going to get somebody, I think, maybe a little bit more of a project, but if they can reach that potential, he could be somebody who's a perennial Pro Bowler one day as well.
We talked a lot about Kadyn Proctor. This next guy, though, I haven't heard a ton about, so you're going to have to tell us about him, Tom. The Bears selecting safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren at 25 overall. What stands out on the tape about this guy?
Yeah, this is why it pays to watch action on those Tuesday and Wednesday nights in November, boys and girls, because there are not a lot of great players on the field in those games. But when there's a guy that does stand out, you kind of, you see him a little bit easier. And whenever I watched Toledo the last couple of years, this is the guy who stood out every single time I watched him. He's a very big body at the safety position. He's an excellent player coming up in the run. And if you look at the Bears situation with Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker, both of them are free agents. There's a chance both of them will be gone. I think the Bears will look to bring Byard back, but Brisker, who was a second-round pick a few years ago, I think that McNeil-Warren is kind of a Brisker clone. I think they are very similar players, so I could see the Bears dipping into the draft here to replace him without having to go to free agency this way, and he's the kind of player who will just kind of step right into what they're already doing on defense, and honestly, he might be a little bit better than Brisker in pass coverage, but either way, bringing him down into the box, he's an excellent helper in the run game, and he's good in coverage. He's a guy you might not know because he didn't play in a lot of big games, but he's a very good football player.
Hey, well, he's got our attention now, that's for sure. Let's get to pick 26, the Buffalo Bills on the clock right now. Linebacker C.J. Allen, are you confident enough in saying, though, he will be immediate help to this Buffalo run defense?
I think so, Jordan. He's a player who doesn't have like one singular trait that really jumps off the chart, but he's just an outstanding football player. And sometimes we overthink this because, at 6'1", maybe you wish he was 6'2" or 6'3", or you wish his 40 time was a little bit faster. But from a leadership perspective, playing that middle linebacker position, he's somebody who's a very, very smart football player who is directing all the traffic on that side of the ball. And when he steps up to the NFL, he'll be that green dot linebacker, the one who's communicating with the coaches and then getting those directions out to his team. And I think you can trust him implicitly in that role. And again, he's just solid when you go out there, which I know sometimes people want to see sacks sacks or they want to see tackles for loss. But how about somebody who just makes the plays they're supposed to make? I think that's how you describe C.J. Allen and why I think he can succeed. And I think you would expect the same for him in Buffalo.
All right, let's end here with pick 27. The San Francisco 49ers are on the clock. Who do you have them taking, Tom?
I've got them taking Denzel Boston, the wide receiver from Washington, who honestly, the last few years, as I've watched him play for the Huskies, I've just sat there and looked at him and say, that looks like the guy who would do great in a Kyle Shanahan offense. So why not just draft him for a Kyle Shanahan offense? He's a precise route runner. He's a big body. He's not a burner. He's not going to kill you over the top with vertical routes, but he's excellent on like those deep ins and outs that the 49ers thrive off of over the middle of the field. I think he would step in. We've seen the 49ers kind of look for receivers the recent years in the NFL draft that they haven't had a ton of success with. I think Boston will step in and be one of their top targets right away. He could be very effective in that offense, and I think honestly, based on how this draft has gone in this mock exercise, he's not the biggest name, but if he does end up in this situation, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Denzel Boston is like your rookie of the year on offense next season.
Oh, wow. That is quite the statement. All right, we'll leave it there for now as you take a look at the recap picks 21 through 27 here. The Steelers get a quarterback out of Bama, Ty Simpson, the second quarterback in Tom's mock draft gone. You know, I think what the takeaway is from this screen is it doesn't have to be the biggest name to have the biggest impact, right, Danny Kanell?
That's exactly right.
Quick break for us, but when we return here on HQ Spotlight, we wrap up our mock draft with the final 5 picks. 2 quarterbacks taken. Will there be a third? You're going to have to stick around to find out. We're back here on CBS Sports Network. It's HQ Spotlight. We're working through Tom Fornelli's NFL mock draft as it is mock draft Monday. We've reached the end of this, our final 5 picks of this, Tom, and we have our second Utah lineman actually off the board in this first round.
Yeah, it's Caleb Lomu, the other tackle from Utah, the right tackle. I have him going to the Houston Texans, who, I mean, if you followed the Texans last year, you follow the Texans at all any of the last 3 years, you know that their offensive line has been an issue for them. I think they need to do everything they can to address it. At this point, in the end of the first round, Lomu's my top player on the board at the tackle position. He's not a left tackle, but you can put him at right tackle, and this is a guy who will improve your run game from the very start. He is a very physical player. He's got incredible fundamentals. He is a coach's dream. He's a day one starter at the NFL level who might not be the perennial Pro Bowler, but will be one of the better right tackles in the league for a long time.
Tom, I think what's exciting about him at 6'6", 308, I think he can add a little bit more to his frame. He is incredibly athletic and agile. It's like when you're breaking him down, he doesn't quite have the mass that the other guys do, but if you can put on an extra 10, 15 pounds of that frame, I think that's where you can see the real upside potential.
All right, we've got back-to-back tackles off the board here. Another big guy out of Georgia. Tom, tell us about offensive tackle Monroe Feeling going to the Rams here.
Yeah, when you look at all the tackles that we've had come off the board so far, the one thing they all have in common is they've been playing for 2, 3, 4 years. They've got a lot of starts. Feeling is the first guy who I have going who isn't overly experienced. He had to wait his turn at Georgia to get on the field. But from what we saw last year, there's a lot to like. If you look at him from a build-wise, he's got the size. He's got very long arms. There's a lot you can dream on as he gets experience. And this is a Rams team that I think should be looking to address their offensive line. You can always be improving in that area. If Pete Prisco was here right now, he'd be yelling about draft big men and figure it out from there. I've got the Rams drafting a big man and figuring it out from there in Freeland.
Definitely 6'7", 315 pounds. My gosh, let's just keep the big man trend rolling here because next up at pick 30, the Broncos selecting Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech, the defensive lineman, 6'4", 330.
So I was at the Orange Bowl doing media day, and I asked Jacob Rodriguez, their linebacker, I was like, who's the guy that kind of makes it all go? The guy's going to give me a good interview, but plays with a ton of energy. He's like, oh, go talk to Lee. He's like, talk to Lee Hunter. And as a defensive tackle, he was a great interview, but I think what you've got to be really excited about is what you see on the tape. He is somebody who can absolutely just wreak havoc up there. 6'9" wingspan. Now you talk about the length of to be able to keep offensive linemen at bay there at a stretch. His bull rush at the Senior Bowl was something that scouts were talking about throughout the week, and his ability to just overpower the offensive linemen in front of him. You're probably going to have to face a lot of that as a tackle, double teams. but he's got the ability to shed those blockers and really clog up the interior of that defense. So I think Lee Hunter is somebody that, if the Broncos get him, it's like the rich get richer with that defense. To be able to add him to those already pretty nasty pass rush, that could be a great spot for Lee Hunter to go to.
What a compliment there. You know, we're not going to get through a first round of a Tom Fornelli mock draft without fighting a Illini pick, right?
Nice, yeah.
Go ahead. The floor is yours, Tom Fornelli. At 31 here, who are the New England Patriots getting?
I have the Patriots selecting Illinois edge rusher Gabe Jacas, and yes, he is an Illini, but this is not a homer pick. I have watched Gabe play his entire career for the Illini. He's an excellent pass rusher, and the irony here is, as I've watched him develop, the one player he has reminded me the most of throughout his career is Mike Vrabel. They have very similar games. They have a similar build. They have a similar style of play. They're very tough. They do not have an elite trait, but they are big, they are strong, and they are relentless at getting after the quarterback. So I could see Mike Vrabel, whose team does need some help in its pass rush, looking at Jacas and thinking that is a player that I want in my team. So here at the end of the first round, where we're getting kind of thin with the pass rush, where we've seen a lot of the top names come off the board, I think this is somebody that fits very well for the Patriots. He will fit their culture, he will fit their style of play, and he will be a bonus for them on defense next year as they try to get back to the Super Bowl.
All right, that'll get Patriots fans fired up for this guy. We have reached the end of this mock draft, and you could find this full mock draft over on CBSSports.com. And as we get to pick 32, I want to point out what I'm reading online right now. Tom says, when a team wins the Super Bowl, it's easy to say they don't have any needs, but you got to get somebody. Tell us about this guy.
Yeah, so they're going to go tackle the offensive line, which is, again, might be the rich get richer, because we saw the way they were able to run the football this past season, and John Schneider has done an outstanding job building both interiors that. But Emmanuel Pregnone from Oregon is somebody who can come in instantly. I mean, I do think it's easier for offensive linemen to make that transition in the run game. You're just coming off the ball. You don't have to deal with the pass rushers. You can use some of your power and strength, and that's exactly what this Oregon offensive line gives you. He is a great downhill blocker in the run game. I think this makes a ton of sense for Seattle, where you've got this luxury of making this pick to already boost up an offensive line and help them a little bit from depth. I think this is a great pick for Seattle.
All right, gentlemen, that'll do it. We'll leave it there as you take a look at the final 5 picks of Tom Fornelli's first round. 28 through 32 there. We will be right back here on HQ Spotlight with our biggest takeaways from Tom's mock draft, so stay with us.